All right, hopefully everyone got a chance to catch up. You are all caught up, catched up, that's good. Hopefully you're all caught up, and pretty much this is the way your form currently looks. Now, if you remember when I showed you the completed product, it looks a lot different. We've got all this stuff done, but we don't have this box around it. So we're going to put that in next. All right, this is called a field set, when you put a box around one or more fields, and the text that you put in here is called a legend. All right, and my guess is, I haven't looked at your next test, your next written, but my guess is one or both of those will be on your next test. So how do you do that? Well, we come back up to the top, and so we're up at the top. The first thing that we put in here, which was this first paragraph, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab everything that we've added, all of the stuff that we put in, everything, from the first paragraph to the last paragraph, all that. I'm going to highlight all of it and just hit tab to move it over one. All right. Then I'm going to come back up to the top here, and right after my form tag, I'm going to put in here field set, and I'm going to immediately, oops, sorry, I don't know what happened there. I'm going to immediately, underneath that, put in legend, and I'm going to have it say personal information, and then I'm going to end my legend tag. All right, and just give me a second, I'll come right back to it, but then I'm going to go down to the bottom right before my ending form tag right now, and I'm going to add my ending field set tag. If it worked, this is what it now looks like. So notice I now have personal information. See that? That's what I want. So how did we do that? Again, what I did was I tabbed everything in the form over, then I added these two lines right underneath the form tag. So I'll give you a second to do that if you have not yet done so. So you'll notice the beginning and ending legend tags are together. It's kind of like an H1 tag or an H2 or an H whatever. In fact, a lot of times you'll see it like this. It doesn't really matter if you hit enter or not. I just did it so you'd be able to see all of it on the screen. All right. So that drew the box around it, and that put the text in there with it. Then down at the very bottom, right before your ending form tag, I added my ending field set tag. So again, if you did all that, and then if you run it, it should now look like this. It's much wider than our finished product will be. We'll fix that later. That's with CSS. I don't care. None of this stuff lines up. I don't care. We're going to fix all that stuff later. All right? But again, taking a look at our final page, we now have, for lack of better words, everything in there done. Does that make sense to everybody? So what we have to do is add our non-personal information, which is all of the stuff in here. So that's what's left to do. All right, so that's what we're going to do now. You want to make sure that that stuff that you add it outside of the field set tag. So after your ending field set tag, you want to put that in. All right? Got a little bit more to type. It's not terrible. All right? But I want to come in here, and I'm just going to grab this. I don't even have to do it this way, but I am doing it that way. So, label, I'm going to just call this call. And this is going to say best time to call. All right. And these are going to change. This is going to say radio. And this is the first time our name and our ID are going to be different from one another. Oh, I need a label for all these. I'm sorry. I need a label there, and I need a label there. Okay, let me fix this. Sometimes you'll see this broken up like this too, just because it's much easier to read. No, we don't need these. I'm sorry. So get rid of that and get rid of that. Okay. Radio time morning, and that'll say morning right there. This will say afternoon, and this will say evening. All right. Let me check and make sure it looks the way I want it to look. So there's my best time to call: morning, afternoon, evening. Good, that's what I want. All right, so I'll leave that up there for a minute. You'll notice if you look here, this was not a mistake. Name equal time, name equal time, name equal time. That's what's known as a radio button group. Now I'm dating myself here because you're all a lot younger than I am, but back in the days, or maybe you've seen an older car like this, back in the days when cars had push button radios, and it was all AM, that's where these radio buttons got their name from, because you could only push in one button at a time. In much the same way, you can only choose one of these at a time. So you'll notice if I come back here and I run this again, and I come down, if I click morning, now you can see morning is checked, but if I click afternoon, the one for morning goes away. Evening, the afternoon one goes away. Does that make sense? So what these are used for, just so you know, when you use a radio button, they're referred to as mutually exclusive choices. So for instance, the most common one that you'll see is gender. All right? In the politically correct world we live in today, it used to always just say male or female. Now you see a lot of them that say male, female, and other. All right? But the point is, you can only be one of those. That's the idea behind it. All right? And let's say that I want, for whatever reason, let's assume here, if you look up on the screen, that most people are gonna want to be called in the morning. So I can put in there checked, and you'll notice that if I put in the word checked there, if I run this, can you see how it's checked? So if you want to have a default value, default means unless told otherwise, if you want a default value in there, you can put in the word checked. Okay? Now, I probably should have asked this earlier, but we've gone through a lot of this. Literally, there's about 4.5 pages of typing, and we're on the bottom of page 3. Any questions on anything that we've done? Anything you need me to move back up on so you can see it or whatever? All right, so looking at our hopefully finished product, we now have everything in our personal, and we've got the best time to call. So the next one, if you look in here, is monthly income, and it says please select, and there's a bunch of stuff down below it. That's known as another, again, as a drop-down list. So the idea is you can only choose one of those. All right, so we're going to do that one next, as you'd probably guess. All right, so again, I'm going to come down and I'm going to add a new paragraph. And to make it easier on myself, I'm going to cheat a little and grab it because I've already got it done. Make it easier for you to type it in. Okay, that's it right there. Okay, make it a little smaller so we can see all of it on screen. If I did it correct, if you look on the screen and I run this, now, at the bottom, I've got my drop-down monthly income, and there's my possibilities. All right? So there it is. Have you ever seen these things when you fill out a form online? They might ask, for example, your age, and they've got a bunch of different ranges, and then typically the last one is prefer not to answer type of an idea. I'll always answer all of them except when they ask for income. And I figured, no, you're getting too personal. So I'll always put prefer not to answer. Okay. Or rather not answer like we've got here, whatever. So we now have, if you look up on the screen, everything is done on here except for the very bottom stuff, that stuff. That's all we've got left. All right, ours doesn't look exactly the same because, again, we have not added any CSS to it. We will do that, and really, when you look up up here. That's all our CSS. We're not going to be adding a whole heck of a lot. All right, we'll do that when we get all done. When we get done with that, we'll see where we are, if we'll take another break or not. But Then we're going to go through Chapter 9. I'm going to go through Chapter 9 like this, because virtually everything that's in Chapter 9, I'm showing you. All right, I think especially with this chapter, all right, you have to become very conversant. You have to become very good at creating forms if you want to be a web developer. All right, in many ways, they're the bread and butter of working with with web stuff. Oops, get that back. There. All right. Has everybody caught up? I'm asking, has everybody caught up? All right, so then again, one more time, I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to go back to the original here, and I'm going to grab all this. And this is quite a bit of typing, but if you're smart, this is my opinion, if you're smart, what you're going to end up doing is as much copying and pasting as you can possibly do. Like I said, there's a bit of typing that you have to do now. Sorry about that. We'll just take it right from the top, right there. Once we're done with this, we literally are done with it. All right, so again, if you take a look up on the screen here, once we get done putting in all this stuff, we now have literally everything that we need. That'll be it for the form. Take for granted that everybody at least has that typed in. All right, even if you're a slow typist, you've got that typed in. Oops. down here. Does everybody have this one done? Yes? Does everybody have this one done? You're not doing a very good job of lining things up. TDs. Does everybody have this done? like I said, rather than having to type all this, you should be able to do a lot of copying and pasting. All right, which I would think would really make your life easier and go a little faster. And that's it. So I'll give you a minute to finish that up. hoping everybody's got it done then. And again, if you did get it done and you ran it, it should look something like this. All right. Very similar to what we want our ending product to look like. Not identical, but very similar. All right. So the next thing that we want to do is, when I had you bring all that stuff in here, you've got these two files. You've got the index and the states. So I'm going to go and I'm going to right mouse click and put in a new folder that's called CSS. And in my CSS file, I'll need to put something that's called styles.css in there. All right, so I'm going to open up my CSS folder, right mouse click, choose new text document. I want to change the name of everything right away to styles.css. If it comes back and it says, do you want to change the extension? Yes. All right, so now it's a style sheet, and I'm going to open that up, and let's start putting in this stuff. Again, as I said, it's one page worth, so it's not going to take nearly as long as what we just did. All right, the first thing we're going to do is this. All right, somebody tell me what is that doing?
Font size gain, or font size
3, what is 3M? It's a relative measurement, and 1M is about equal to 16 pixels. So we're saying make it about 3 times the regular size. All right, and make it green and bold. So if I save this and I go back over to here, we just looked at this. All right, and if I right mouse click, that's pretty obvious what just happened. All right, we made that much bigger. So that's the first thing. Then what I want to be able to do is, if you, hopefully you notice this, that everything was within these main tags. It started there and it ends way down here. So in other words, the entire body of the document, everything is within the main tags. All right. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say, well, what do I want to do in my main tag? And probably half dozen things. First one, display block. I'm going to talk about all these in just a minute. Width, 550 pixels, margin top, 5 pixels, float left, background, let's use the pound here, border radius, 10 pixels, border, now, come right back to it, but let's take a look at that and see how it changed the way this looks. All right, it's looking a lot more like the final product is supposed to be looking. So what did we say here? Display block. Remember, there's block elements and there's inline elements. All right, so we want everything to display on its own line when possible. We cut the width down. to 550 pixels. I could have figured out, divided that by 16, which is really probably what I should have done. So I could have taken 550, divided it by 16, which gives me 34.375. So I could have changed this to 34.375 ems. That's actually a cleaner way to do this. I wanted a top margin of 5 pixels. I wanted everything floated to the left. I wanted the background to be white. I wanted there to be a border radius around it of 10 pixels. That draws the line around it. The border is 6 pixels, solid red. I've got some padding and some left margin. And again, that gave us this. It isn't perfect. It's not done yet, but it's getting there. The next thing that I want to do is for my paragraphs. Three things. I want there to be a margin all the way around. So I want a 10 pixel top and bottom, and I want nothing on the left and right. I want the font weight to be bold, and I want the color to be green. All right, so there's that. Again, change. You can see how stuff is greening up, so to speak. All right. Then I want to do almost the same thing for my legend. Not quite, but almost. But here I want the color to be red. I want the font weight to be bold. And I want the font size to be doubled to 2M. Again, I can go back and look. There's my personal information that's now in red. Again, it's getting there. It's not perfect, but it's getting there. Bear with me, about 10 more lines and we're done. All right, I'm not hearing typing, so I'm taking for granted that everybody's caught up. Now I want to show you this. We're going to add to this, but I want to just show you this right now. I'm going to put in TD for all my table data. And I'm going to say color red, font weight bold. Okay? That's not all of it. Please look up on the screen. Even if you're typing, just stop for a second. That's all my table data stuff. All right, so now notice if I put this in, everybody agree this is all in black in color? So far as I can tell, everything's black in color. Okay? But now that I put this in saved, now when I come back and I refresh, now notice, why is that still red? I don't know, or black rather. TD color red. Well, I'm going to put the rest in anyway, and hopefully that'll fix it. We'll find out. I don't just want to do TDs. I also want to do select, and this is what I'm showing you now. This is new. Input. That's why it was red. Type equal text. Input type equal email. Input type, type equal tell. All right. Now, if you'd stop for a second and look up here, now let's notice what happens when I start putting stuff in. It's red, it's red, it's red, it's red, red, red. Well, that one it didn't do, so URL isn't right. And the date. So it looks like I've got to add more. And I didn't even do this on mine, so URL and date. Let me go back and recheck. Red. Doing that. Oops, don't know what I did there. But hopefully you'll agree, taking a look, still doesn't have my URL as being read, and it doesn't show my date as being read. I'll have to work on those. But can you see how everything's getting read? All right. So I'll have to check on the URL, and I'll have to check on the that I might not be able to. I'm not sure why, but
My URL and data are
they are? Okay. Well, that's more important to me than mine being read. All right. That's probably because I don't have a comma there, and I don't have a comma there. That could be why. Yep. Okay. And one more, and we are done. Just the labels. Would you agree right now nothing lines up in our section that's up here? So let's make them line up. Move this up. Label. Display. Inline. Block, which isn't going to do much in this case, but with, this will, 150 pixels. And mercifully, we are done. All right. If you look up on the screen here, notice now when I refresh, give me a flippin'. What's that? I mean label with 2 L's? Oh, that's just because it's special. All right. There you go. Somehow these are wrong, but I'll have to fix that. I'm not worried about it. All right, it's looking about 99% of the way that I want it to look. Okay. Now, like I said, that was a long exercise, probably the longest one that we've done as a class this semester. But I did it like that because now when we actually go through the book and we go through the chapter, we should be able to buzz through it fairly quickly. All right? And what you're going to find out, kind of an FYI for you, especially when we get into the JavaScript part of the class, this is how we're going to do every chapter. Because I think you learn best by doing as opposed to being talked to. All right, so my hope is everybody's got that. If you didn't or there's something you really need, then just let me know during the break, all right? But I'm going to go and open up the PDF for the book, even though it's the older copy. And we're about on page 400. Again, I'm going by the older copy of the book that I have, so it's not going to map up totally with what's in your book. If you've got your book, you've got the more up to date. All right, describe common uses of forms on web pages. Create forms, that's what we just did. We didn't do everything in here that we could possibly do. All right, I'm actually going to go back to the form as we get in there and show you a couple other things we could have added. Talk a little bit about accessibility, tab indexes, form controls. So we looked at label, we looked at field set, we looked at legend. We didn't do anything with images on here, but we did add a button. We did use CSS to style the form. We looked at the email address. We looked at the calendar. We looked at the color. So we've done some of these. All right. We'll talk a little bit at the end about server-side processing and where you can find more information. So as it says on the bottom of the page here, on the bottom of page 399 in your book, this chapter introduces a very powerful tool for web developers, forms that accept information from web page visitors. All right. In fact, let me stop this.